Now, where voting is underway in a high-stakes election, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voted earlier. He is seeking re-election despite being engulfed in a corruption and bribery scandal.
Netanyahu has been in power for more than a decade, but he's facing a serious challenge from centrist candidate Benny Gantz. So for more on Israel's election, we want to bring in Dan Raviv. He's a senior Washington correspondent for I-24 News. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan. This is a really interesting time, I think, for Israel. Interesting election. Give us the latest, though. You know, who looks like they're pulling ahead? What are the polls saying at this point?
Well, the polls do indicate it's close, but you have to know this about the Israeli system. It's not like here in the U.S. It's not directly electing the prime minister. So basically, you're thinking the outcome's going to be either Prime Minister Netanyahu keeping his job or the retired General Benny Gantz becomes the new prime minister. But here's how it's done. It's done by political parties. As a matter of fact, when the Israeli voters go to the polls all day today, what they're doing is only making one vote, and that's which party do you support? Then you look at the results by proportional representation, and so it could be Netanyahu's party, head of the Likud, Gantz's party, which is a new one, by the way, called Blue and White, and there are other parties who also will have seats in the parliament, the Knesset, and who can get a majority? 61 seats out of 120. So it reminds me of the American election in 2016 when Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump, but, you know, she's not president, of course. It's possible for Netanyahu or Gantz to get more votes, more seats in Parliament tonight, but it could take a few weeks to put together a coalition. We probably won't know tonight who's the winner.
All right, so Dan, it's no secret that Bibi Netanyahu and former President Barack Obama did not get along, but he has a very close relationship with the current president, President Trump. I've seen, in fact, campaign posters with Bibi and Trump in them. So how or what role has President Trump played in this election, and how has his relationship with Netanyahu impacted the race?
Well, intentionally or not, and Vlad, I think it was intentional. Trump, I think, has been trying to help Netanyahu. Of course, U.S. officials say, no, we don't interfere in foreign elections. But Trump has his own style, and frankly, he's been a friend of Benjamin Netanyahu for decades. They've known each other, and I don't think Trump really knows the other candidates. Now, again, U.S. officials say no matter who turns out to be the Israeli prime minister, there will be a warm alliance between the U.S. and Israel. That's probably true, but Donald Trump likes to go with the guy that he knows. Now, what has he done for him? Well, of course, last year there was moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, something that made Israelis feel great. And this year, very recently, during the campaign, President Trump decided that the Golan Heights that Israel captured from Syria in the Six-Day War back in 1967, the Golan Heights is Israeli sovereign territory. What a declaration. What a declaration of friendship. And certainly Netanyahu has been boasting about it during the campaign.
So it remains to be seen whether or not that relationship will benefit him in this election. But I just kept on thinking about sort of the reverse, how ensuring that Netanyahu wins this election will also benefit the president when you consider that his son-in-law is in charge of peace in the Middle East. And one of his primary qualifications was his very close and long relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. How important is it that he wins this election for the U.S.?
Right. Jared Kushner also close to Netanyahu for many years. And Kushner and, frankly, his peace team, including the other American mediator, Jason Greenblatt, well, they're Jewish, they're pro-Israel, they don't hide that fact. And basically, the Trump administration has told the Palestinians, like it or lump it, this is what you got. And the U.S. is saying we're on Israel's side, but this is a good time for you to grab a peace deal. So we expect really soon, who knows, maybe even this week, finally, the long-awaited so-called deal of the century might be put out by Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt on behalf of President Trump. Ideas for Israeli-Palestinian peace, what, including borders, including a Palestinian independent state? We don't know what's in the plan, but really, do we think the Palestinians will go for it when Trump has been so pro-Israel? Trump is betting that they might. But as he said on Saturday when he addressed the Republican Jewish coalition in Las Vegas, President Trump said, if these guys can't do it, nobody can. We'll see what happens.
All right. Dan, you know, this is a really interesting and exciting election for Israelis. So when the results come in, let's definitely have you back to talk about it.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Dan Raviv, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
So